Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we pluck the trouser snakes off the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Bauer.
I'm the intern, Gerry Porter.
And we are back here with minute 5 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which begins with Indy declaring that the Cross of Coronado belongs in a museum, and it ends with Indy getting chased out of the cave.
Okay. All right. So this is a great minute just from the very first second. Indy has the famous line that we hear all the time on our Indiana Jones Minute Listeners Crusade on Facebook. Quote, "It belongs in a museum."
Right.
And so, this is supposed to be Indiana Jones' raison d'etre, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, he robs from the robbers, and he puts the ill-gotten booty in its right place.
Right.
Kind of like, and it kind of made me think of like that Radiohead song, right? From Kid A, Everything in Its Right Place, which to me always sounds like this sort of obsessive compulsive thing where it's like, you know what I mean? Like everything in its right place.
It's like he's tidying the earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly.
all of history.
Yeah, and that it kind
go.
of, and that's that's just, I don't know how I feel when I hear that song. It's like the dude's kind of all up in his head, and everything's got to be in its right place. And so I'm wondering, where did Indy acquire this sense of moral duty with everything is at right place? Does he have? Is this sort of his own compulsion, or does he really own this here? Is he really know what's going on? Does he own it? Or is he just parroting what he heard from his father?
See, I had a lot of questions about this. Like, I think it's interesting because Indy, before Indy became Indy, he's kind of Belloc because he's taking what was once briefly Fedora's and now it's going to be his.
Yeah.
And is he justified in stealing the cross from these guys? Does he know they're looting? Or is he basically just stealing? Is he doing the same thing they're doing? Is he just stealing from them?
I think, like the audience, he knows from the undisciplined hooting and hollering that these guys are up to no good.
The cackling, yes.
They want to buy jewelry for corpses of their family members or something, which is unsavory, and so we know that they're not on the up and up. But, so he's not quite like Belloc was stealing from a guy who supposedly was going to put it in a museum, which is supposedly a nicer thing than letting the people who are still using it letting them have it. I don't know. It's all very muddy. Yeah.
Is it Indy? Is it more that Indy wants to possess it himself? Like, even if it's in a museum, it's still it's his find now. He gets the glory.
Yeah, like his name will be on the plaque.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, the third floor of Marshall College.
Yeah.
Geography library. Let's say Henry Jones Jr.
I keep thinking about what our friend John Engel from the Alien Minute, when he was a guest in Raiders, he was saying, I think everyone thinks that Indiana Jones wants to put things in a museum, and I think it's just because of that line from Last Crusade, like this line here.
Uh-huh.
And if you think about Raiders and Temple of Doom, in Raiders, he's dealing with Marcus, and he's like, oh, hey, I got these pieces for the museum and stuff, and it does sound like the idol would have ended up in the museum, but it doesn't necessarily sound like that's his mission in life. I mean, you don't necessarily have to read it that way. It could be like, oh, I had this deal with Marcus. I was going to get this idol to him for the museum, and he's going to pay me. But it might not be that his mission in life, or that his belief is that these antiquities belong in a museum for all the kids to come and booger on and stuff. Like, it could just be from this line, like, oh, even like the filmmakers got it in their head that Indiana Jones lived to get things into museums where they'd be safe and appreciated and studied and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But maybe that's just, I don't know. Maybe that's not totally where he's been at until this line.
But do you think he ever looks back at this day and he, when he's looting temples later, or he's basically stealing stuff, and he ever looks back and he's like, I used to believe things.
I mean, what's interesting is we see in this minute he has no fear, no known fear, right? He later acquires a phobia. And, but here it's like they make him to be very sort of dutiful and, this moral integrity that, I don't know. I mean, the way he even just, he spits it out with such duty. It belongs in a museum.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I don't even know if he believes that. I think that's the rule, and he's following the rule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone else just just gave him that directive, and he has to follow that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think it would have come from his dad? Not to jump ahead, but like he's more of like a scholar. Like, I wonder if he would have, been into antiquities and, little bits of junk and the importance of getting them in a museum. I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if that would have come from his dad or someplace else. I don't know.
Or maybe his dad never wanted things in a museum, and it's just like his way of
he's rebelling. I'll show you, old man. I'm putting the Cross of Coronado in a museum.
I like that. That's really good. I was gonna, he doesn't clean his room.
Right. Puts things in museums.
Puts everything in its right place.
Yeah.
But is this just a self-inflated sense of importance?
Yes.
Because I think it might be too.
I think it is.
He made up the fact that it's the Cross of Coronado. Like we've seen that it isn't. And there's obviously no evidence that supports that. So is he just sort of building this narrative in his mind that he's the hero of his story, and he's fitting the facts around that?
Yeah,
it's funny because he's got that when he gives Eaton like his marching orders and tells him what to do and stuff, go get help and everything. And as he's on his way down, he's like, I'll think of something. And he's like,
called him Eaton.
I don't want to call him Porkins because it's just it's too much.
Eaton.
I'll call him Eaton. He is Baby Eaton.
He's Minor Eaton at this point.
Baby Eaton.
Minor Appetizer Eaton. He's but yeah, he's got that kind of like heroic gleam in his eye, like, hey, I'm on top of this. Like, I'll think of something, But it's like, is this his first rodeo? Is this the first time he's done something like this? Or is he always like finding situations like this already at like whatever age he is, 17?
Yeah, like did
something?
Herman find like a baseball card in the vacant lot and Indy stole it from him? He's like, it belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Or like, some kid took his lunch and then he's like, I'll think of something. And he's like, climb over the rooftops of the school to get to the kid to get the lunch back and everything. Like, everything's an adventure for him already.
Well, do you think like the local, wherever they are in Utah, it's like, Ogden, Utah, the local little historical society. There's a knock on the back door, and the guy opens the door, the little curator, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's that Jones kid again." He's like sitting there with a bunch of those like Indian spearheads and the little flints, the Indian flints. He's like, "Look, we already have 180 of these things.
I'm drowning in arrowheads. It's amazing. I get it. Okay.
Coronado, sure."
And it's like, but it belongs in a museum. It's like, why don't you put it on your mantle at home, kid? That's fine.
Yeah. My treat.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
my treat. But what's really interesting here is like you raised a good point, Pete, where so Indy looks down and he sees these guys with a leather jacket and a fedora, and he's like, "Oh, say those are looters."
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, he knows that they're robbers. And then later on in his own life, he's dressed as a robber.
Yeah.
Like, if you're wearing a leather jacket and a fedora, well, then you're the robber.
And he has his own band of, sidekicks like that, too, with Satipo.
Like, sort of local henchmen again.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's just a strange, it's a strange choice that he recognizes them, I guess, through the cackle. But also just sort of, I don't know, just sort of their general aura or behavior, but then he does that himself.
Well, then maybe the belongs in a museum sort of becomes his way of denying the fact that he's a robber. Like, that's just the way he keeps telling himself, I'm a good guy. Like, even though he's totally a looter and he's exactly like Fedora, he can go back and say, but it belongs in a museum. That's kind of his way of denying who he's become.
Maybe it's not even the looting. Maybe it's just the he sees these guys finding something awesome. He's like, oh my God, I wish I had that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it and I'll put it in a
Yeah.
museum, and then they can't get it back. And it'd be like putting it in the bank or something.
I do think we start to see that Indiana Jones, not start to see, but we see him at a young age here. He's delusional. Mm-hmm. He has this sort of Ptolemaic worldview, and just whatever he does is fine. That's just, and I suffer from that myself, so I can actually see it in a character easily. Do you see?
I never
that's how
thought I'd hear you actually say that, Gerry.
that's how great I am. I
can't believe you finally just said that out loud and on air. That's fantastic.
Well, he's like delusional, and in terms of like he doesn't figure out even are these guys at are they from wherever Ogden Junior College on a dig?
Right.
He just immediately writes the narrative. Oh, that's, as you said, Pete, that's the Cross of Coronado.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of a big bike race.
Exactly. Hey, I actually don't think that Baby Porkins is ophidiophobic here. I don't think he's suffering from a fear of snakes. I think he's freaking out because Indy ordered him to run. And he's really like, but I can't run. He's like, I want you to run to... He said, like, I want you to run and get the Scoutmaster. Go get Mr. Havlack. And he's like, I can't run.
It's like those you see those Japanese game shows where they'll have a guy just walking down the street and they'll have an entire mob of people will be hiding around a corner and they'll immediately start running at him screaming, and then that guy will start running and screaming.
Oh my
too.
God.
Exactly.
So yeah, we get this snake minute, and is this? I mean, this is sort of the beginning. Well, maybe it belongs to the museum, but we're sort of getting to the beginning now of a lot of wink, wink fan service.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think maybe we all think this might be the problematic part of this scene.
It's a little. I mean, we're already talking about like the jacket and the hat and everything. I mean, it's all just a little like, like if the guy had just been wearing like a pith helmet, would Indiana Jones have a pith helmet now and stuff? And
But it's like every single part of his personality that we learn in the later movies is going to be formed in this 2 hours.
I know.
On a Saturday afternoon.
Well,
it's okay though. It's whimsical.
It's like we see every single thing about Indiana Jones like in this minute. That's what you're bummed about.
Yeah, in this coming sequence.
Yeah. Hearing on the train. But do you think the audience in 1989 sees him reach for the snake and they're like, "What?" Or do you think everyone's like,
"Oh yeah"? I think this like
Yeah.
as soon as he grabs it, they're like, "Oh, he's 17. Like, he's still got half an hour left to go before he's afraid of snakes."
Yeah.
Ah, youth.
When Baby Porkins asks Indy, what are you gonna do? And he says, I don't know. I'll think of something. And it's like, so at first, as you said, we figure out a lot about Indy's character in like 60 seconds. Because first we see the what, which is his raison d'etre, it belongs in a museum, and then now we see the how, which is just make it up.
Yeah,
right.
Which does become one of his most lovable traits.
Yeah. It's like, and it should almost be like, meet me at, oh my gosh, I look at that Cross of Coronado. Wow.
This Fedora line here, I've been saying in my head for weeks now. This little Saturday Night Live kind of sing-songy. Dig with your hands, not with your mouth.
Oh, no. He says dig with your hands, not with your mouth.
Yeah.
What did Pete just say?
That's what I just
Think.
said.
I thought you said
dig.
think.
No, dig.
Oh, dig.
But
Okay.
he just says it in such a like crazy sing-songy.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a ridiculous delivery that I can't.
What are they even digging for right now? They just found the Cross of Coronado. Are they
He wants a ring to put on his grandma's bony finger.
Oh,
You did that really well. That's really stupid. It's exactly at second 22 that we have this rotten cackle. And at first I thought it might be fiendish, but that implies too much thought. So
Yeah,
I think like
it's more
rotten.
demented.
Yeah, it's more rotten is more depraved. It's unrefined and it's unsalvageable. Like, this guy is just, I feel like the henchman is just, he's just cureless. Like, you could take him out of the cave, you could take him out of Utah, he's just gonna float back down into the gutter lane again, you know what I mean? No matter where he is.
But it's interesting because I was talking to Jamie the archaeologist about this, and he grabs the cross here, but there are all these like beautiful Pueblo ollas, like these Pueblo jars in situ. Everything's here in a perfect archaeological site, and Indy he doesn't care. Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
We're just taking the treasure.
Yeah. Is it because I'm just thinking of this now. Is his dad is fully into the Grail and Catholic lore and everything, Christian lore. So do you think Indy's like, oh, I see a cross? Like, yes, there's jars and stuff, but there's like a Christian symbolism. I got to grab that. Like that's what I'm keyed into.
Oh, Dad's gonna be so proud.
Dad's gonna
wait till the taxidermy man see what I brung him.
There's a huge problem here, actually. A huge problem. You guys bring up Christian lore and all that stuff. That's actually not the cross of Coronado. That is the crucifix of Coronado. Because for those of you keeping score at home, a crucifix has Jesus' body still on the cross. It's, usually tortured and bloody to remind us Catholics exactly what Jesus did to save our souls. And a cross, on the other hand, is pretty much a cross only without the body of Jesus being on there. And that's because, of course, the Lord has risen. And for Protestants, that's why, that's what they're supposed to celebrate, the miracle of the resurrection. And I don't know. My understanding, that's one of the main differences between Catholic and Protestant churches is what hangs above the altar and exactly what it symbolizes. I mean, as a Catholic, we're all supposed to feel guilty and look at the battered, bruised, tortured body of Jesus, and he did that for you.
Bleeding.
Yeah.
Well, I have two questions about that.
Yeah.
A, do we know for sure that Jesus is on that and that it's not just a cross? And B, would they have been able to sell a Lego set called the Crucifix of Coronado or like a T-shirt or an action figure or anything like that?
Well, there's definitely a cross on. I mean, there's definitely Jesus is on that. I don't know what sort of cataracts you have. What are you watching it on like an iPhone 1?
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. No, his body is on there, and that's all good because Coronado and Cortez, those guys were all Catholic.
Yeah. They chinsed out on the Jesus though. That's like he's like a little twig on there. Like the cross is massive, and then he's just a very
they spent all their money on those
there.
pearls and the stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't that a little microcosm of the problems with the Catholic Church? Can we get into that?
Speaking of problems with the Catholic Church, I just want to take a minute, for those Protestants and Martin Luther fans out there. This year is the 500th year since the shout out to you. The 500th year since Luther posted his 95 Theses on the door in Wittenberg, causing the old split there. Yeah. Congratulations. Like, it's great we're talking about this right now. Okay, so Indy grabs baby Porkins by the neckerchief. And that's a really weird word, neckerchief.
It is a weird word.
Yeah,
it's
neckerchief.
Tough.
I'm just
going to say it all the time.
Really?
Neckerchief.
Oh, for Sam?
Well, in my Cub Scout days, yeah.
Okay.
Neckerchief. It always sounded weird.
So they actually call it that? Like, it's not just the proper name, like everyone calls it that?
It's not a scarf. It's not it's not a napkin. It's a neckerchief. Yeah.
Well, because in 4th grade I was pursuing Renee Vince instead of the Boy Scouts, I never knew that the neckerchief, although generally ceremonial, when unfolded, it doubles as a bandage for first aid. Oh. And it also is a coat of arms for virgins. I mean, let's be honest. If you're wearing a neckerchief, it's all right. Maybe take it off.
Well, no, then once you lose your virginity, it's a cravat. It's like a cool, like,
You just tie it
preppy
differently. Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Wait a minute. I got a question for you, dead mother.
Yes.
I was doing a little bit of research on neckerchiefs and the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and they said that, like, that that thing that you wear that the neckerchief goes through is called a woggle. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like the part where the tie, like there's like a metal knot type thing. Yeah, it's called a woggle.
You want to call it a clasp or like a little
Yeah.
object or
Your
something?
woggle showing.
But I just looked it up.
Let me wiggle your woggle.
A woggle is a device to fasten the neckerchief, or if you've had sex, a scarf, worn as part of the Scout or Girl Guides uniform, originated by a Tasmanian scout in the 1920s. So have you ever used that term, Tommy, woggle?
I as a testament to what a lousy den leader I was, I've never heard the term woggle, but I'm sure you're absolutely correct.
All right. I mean, that's the sort of research we do around here. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah. Ow! Many people don't know this right now, but Tommy and I are out in the woods.
It's freezing out here.
And my hands are all gummy with some kind of weird sap.
Yeah. Trying to pitch a tent for too long, Gerry.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but it sounds like we've accumulated a lot of questions about scouting as we watch Indy and his scouting pals in this first week of Last Crusade. So luckily, we've run into Eagle Scout and Cub Den Leader and all-around good guy, Dave Kalo. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Clearly, if you've been listening to this week, we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to scouting, which is shameful for me because I was a den leader for about 3 years in Cub Scouts and clearly didn't pick up anything. And I want to apologize.
Tom, you were great. You're too hard on yourself.
Thank you.
None of us know what we're doing.
Thank you. I should have embraced that. I should have embraced that no one knew what they were doing and that I was part of that beautiful cycle of ignorance.
Where it goes from ignorant to ignorant.
Yeah.
The cycle.
You put an adult in a uniform like that, and all those boys just look up and say, wow, this is awesome. Look at these guys. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah. It's got badges and neckerchiefs and everything. Yeah. Then they go run in the other direction and you can't control them.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's the point? Which is, you know what? Which actually brings me to my very first excellent question about this whole scene. We see Indy and his troop and this one, they seem to have one adult leader with them, with all these kids on horseback, and they all get off the horses, and he's like, okay, don't scatter, don't get lost, and like they're already scattered and lost, like as he's saying the sentence. And so if you were going to take a group of kids out Boy Scouting on some kind of like outdoor trip like this, would you only have one guy with a whistle and a mustache?
In 1912, probably yes.
Wow.
Even in the 80s when I was a Boy Scout, that was fairly normal. Today's world, totally against the rules.
Yeah. You need like 3 layers or something of redundancy.
Oh yeah,
adult redundancy.
Never shall there be one adult and one scout alone.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, which is good. It's great. I mean,
Sure.
but back in that day, 1912, those things weren't even thought of, and they're probably lucky to find one adult leader to go out with a bunch of Boy Scouts to Utah, on horses.
Right.
Yeah.
Did has anyone ever mistook your Cub Scout troop for cavalry?
I can say with some authority, no.
With all the horses and the trumpets.
Yeah.
And
What about
no?
what about if we applied some sweeping anthemic music?
Yeah.
Would that help?
No, it's more like, oh boy, here comes Lord of the Flies.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Speaking of bugles, this one kid, Herman, he has a bugle, I guess. Not even a trumpet, a bugle. Is there usually one kid in a troop who will have a bugle for some reason? And what would that reason be?
Oh yeah, bugles or even a trumpet. I did a little bugling when I was a scout. It's there to kind of dictate the daily routine of camp. You know, you've got reveille,
Okay.
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got taps, there's colors. So
Sure.
the scouts came out of military tradition, and the bugle followed them along. So it's still there today, actually.
Really?
Okay.
And is
Oh,
it
yeah.
the sort of thing that you would have to audition for? Like if you got 2 or 3 guys who want to be the buglers, now wait a minute. You have to have
We're gonna have a bugle
We're
off,
gonna have
yeah.
a bugle off. Yeah. Does that happen, or
Old
do you...
devil went down to Georgia on a bugle. Yeah.
I would say probably not. In my experience, you're lucky to get a trumpet player willing and able enough to give it a go and embarrass himself in front of his fellow. So
Fair
usually
enough.
the leaders are like, "We're lucky to have you. Just do your best."
Say, is that
Here's
a
a kazoo.
bugle? Watch this.
You're suddenly the most important kid in the troop.
Yeah.
No.
What else happened with these guys? Oh, we noticed that Indy, not only does he has a Life Scout badge, which is, as I understand, right before Eagle Scout, which is the highest you can go.
Yep. In today's world, I did a little looking. I think that became the rules in 1924, but in 1912, it actually went Life, then Star, then Eagle. So he was a couple steps away. But you're right, on his shirt,
Okay.
that's the Life badge, which hasn't changed much. It's got the heart emblazoned on it. Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't like, again, after 3 years, I'm still not an expert at all, but I don't recognize these uniforms at all. I guess assume the uniforms have changed drastically over the years. This like deeper green and the hats and everything. Is that close to what scouts would be wearing today at this
It's
age?
similar. They're more of like a lighter khaki color, in the modern scouting era. Back, scouting got its start in around 1909 in the United States, and they were using what they could find, and they'd used excess military surplus uniforms. So if these guys look like cavalry, then it's probably because they were wearing military surplus cavalry uniforms.
That's incredible.
And
So,
it's just kind of make and do.
this is 1912, so the Boy Scouts were brand new then.
Yeah,
Is
these
that-
were some of the first troops were formed, in that era of 1909 to 1915. They were the very early troops.
Well, that's interesting to think of, like, young Indiana Jones being like, oh, there's a group that's, like, doing all this outdoor stuff that I want to do anyway. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense that he'd jump onto that.
Sure.
Even if he's a grump about the whole thing, apparently. Just scowling
Yeah, he's
throughout this
breaking the
entire
rules,
moment.
right?
Right. He was
Yeah,
the first
scattering.
one to run off into a cave. Don't go in those caves.
Yeah. I can't hear you. I'm in a cave.
And so, hey, speaking of don't go into the caves and Herman, what do you do with that one kid in the troop? The one kid he's covered in turds. And he gets horse sick. You know what I mean? Like, how do you? Because you got to be inclusive, but of course you're operating as a unit, so you do need people to sort of be on board and consistent with certain rules and certain things. How would you deal with a Herman like that?
The scouts are great in that even at that age, it's boy led. So the scouts are leading. And I tell you what, peer pressure is a beautiful thing, and oftentimes the boys will take care of those things, and apply some. As we were all boys, when these movies were coming out, they were, it's pretty effective. The adult leaders will step in. I mean, I'm with Cub Scouts now, and they're much younger, so you're kind of just controlling the chaos. But with the Boy Scouts, you try to stand back and just let them figure stuff out, and it has to get pretty serious if the adult leader steps in and has like an offline chat with a boy to be like, hey, you gotta get your stuff together here, Charlie, because
Right.
you're not cutting it, or you're slowing the group down drastically,
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. It's its own life lesson learned. Then
It is, and a lot of the
Yeah.
I think the good thing about the Scouts is that it's a place where the boys are going to have to learn on their own. It's a one place even today where it's a little bit of the school of hard knocks of like, hey, if you don't pack your bag and it rains and you didn't pack a poncho or rain gear, well, you're all wet. And then next time when you pack your stuff, guess what? You're probably going to pack that rain gear.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you made a joke about Lord of the Flies, but like, I don't get the impression that happens much. I don't think like the boys don't turn on each other much, do they? It seems like a very, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of looking out for each other. I mean, am I just candy coating that, or is that?
No, it's pretty good. It is a group effort, and I think they quickly understand. You need to pull your weight and be part of the group to make it all work out. And I think part of the group is there's the negative aspects, but also the positive aspects, like helping a kid out who can't cook very well, or doesn't know how to set up the tent. Like the group will help out, and you have to get together. So that is a nice part of it. Yeah,
because we even noted in the movie, like Herman falls off his horse, and one kid makes a crack, like, "Hey, Herman's horse sick," but that was it. It wasn't like they didn't cut off a pig's head and make him stare at it or anything, and chuck him off a cliff or
pull out their ad hoc spears.
Right.
Start thrusting.
Right. Well, and like they didn't let him sit there and like cry under his horse either. Next thing you know, he's off in the cave with Indy and doing the something, and that's typical.
It's pals with Indiana Jones.
And I need to be admonished here because I called out Herman for sort of, maybe slowing the group down by falling off the horse. But clearly he's the one who's playing by the rules and telling Indy, I don't think we're supposed to go in here.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did notice, too, and a throwback to one of the first movie, is that I see signs of Indy's grabbing his partner and pushing and pulling and having his way with him.
Absolutely. He learned it in early age.
I'm going to grab you by the collar and manhandle you.
Now, you mentioned, Dave, that you were in the military?
Yeah, I spent some time in the Navy. Yep.
Okay, and did the the Boy Scouts sort of influence that decision for you?
Yeah, well, people will joke, and the Boy Scouts today try to minimize that, but it's like from one uniform to another, pretty seamless, And I tell people, I've been wearing a uniform since from age like 7 through 30, But, no, it does. I mean, there's that order, there's that rank kind of concepts and things that are a natural progression, and it's not lost in the military. I mean, there's a lot of officers who are, anybody actually, enlisted or officers who are Eagle Scouts. They like that aspect of, the boys coming in who have that background, that outdoors knowledge and self-sufficiency. Yeah, it served me well. I mean, I had a crazy military experience. I flew airplanes in Antarctica, and there was survival training and times when that scouting experience paid dividends. So
wow,
yeah.
Awesome.
What badge do you get for that? I got my Arctic badass.
You get this Antarctic service medal, a little frozen dude on the end of a ribbon. But yeah, you're certifiably insane medal. Yeah, it's
certified.
Yeah, don't do that again.
What am I doing here?
Don't forget your parka, damn it.
We had some great patches and things like the patch world in the aviation. There's the military has customs of badges and patches and coins and collectibles and things. And one of my favorite patches was a penguin with a chainsaw. It says, Antarctica, where no one can hear you scream.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Don't
you have to wrestle a penguin to get that one?
Yeah.
Or just
don't go
buzz it with your plane.
Wandering off. These tundras can go for miles.
The tundra is 3 weeks in every direction. Well, we were theorizing. Okay, since Indy's got the Life Scout badge, and he's got this experience that happens right after this, where he, quote unquote, becomes Indiana Jones. He gets a hat and a whip and everything. Does he? If we're theorizing, maybe he didn't actually go through and become an Eagle Scout. So, what kind of skills would he be missing between Life Scout and Eagle Scout that he wouldn't? What do you do to become an Eagle Scout that Indy is now lacking?
People skills.
People skills, I'm guessing.
Yes, actually,
not breaking everything in sight.
Yeah. Respect for antiquities.
Right.
The main difference between the Life Scout and the Eagle Scout is a project. So they have to manage a project, and the labor force are other Boy Scouts. So it is that people side of things. He's got to learn how to, treat his peers nicely, motivate them to do something, and track a project and get it all the way done to completion. So
So,
Now, see, I'm immediately picturing him and Cairo standing there at the top of the Well of Souls, and all these other guys, all the Solids guys, are doing all the digging and all the work, and he's like, bring in the pry bars and dig that thing, and I gotta go change back into my Indiana Jones
give me my Eagle Scout badge. Finally done it.
Right. I told you guys what to do.
I told you guys I managed a project.
Doesn't matter that I'm 35. I want it.
Right. Take that, Dad.
Actually, is there an age that's too old?
Yes, and
I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
this is one thing the Boy Scouts are very strict on. Not a day past your 18th birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to
Wow.
get it all completed and signed off and approved before you turn 18.
Wow.
Now you tell me. I can't. Now it was way too late for me.
Tom, it's too late.
Well, you mentioned off the air that you are a big Indiana Jones fan beyond just being, roped into talking about it on podcasts by people you know.
In the woods.
In the woods.
Yeah, in the woods around this campfire that we built. Yeah.
Right.
Whatever woods we're in.
As you pass the marshmallows, what's your where does Last Crusade sit with your in your ranking of Raiders movies?
Number 2.
After Crystal Skull, of course, right? Wait, what? Oh.
No. No, I like the original.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, can't be beat.
Yeah. This is going to be a long campfire because we all agree. We're all Raiders people here.
Yeah, that's great. I remember we had it on VHS, and I think we wore that thing out. So
Yeah.
And I've been warned off of the Blu-ray, so I need to go find the.
Oh yeah. Please take my word. Although I will say I watched the Blu-ray of Temple of Doom, and that was just fine.
Oh.
But boy, that Raiders of the Lost Ark one just looked like somebody spilled Tang and lemonade all over it or something.
Nasty.
Oh, we should mention you are working on your own podcast now, right?
I am. I'm in the groundwork setting stage of a podcast and trying to get all the pieces together. It's an Antarctic podcast.
Awesome.
Wow.
So this will be about those chainsaw wielding penguins and near-death experiences and
Exactly.
time
I'm trying
there.
to reach out and find people who've had all kinds of interesting experience. There's marathons down there. There's all kinds of explorers and scientists and really, I think, trying to attract not the underside of Antarctica, but the other side, the stuff that outside of the science, all the other stuff that goes on that people may not think about. But I think there's a bazillion great stories to be told.
Yeah, you had an incredible presentation one night at one Cub Scout event where you just showed a bunch of pictures of you down there and your experiences and just the, having to leave planes running the entire time so they don't freeze up and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think, like was it Jacques in the first movie, the air pirate, my nickname was the Ice Pirates. And we
nice.
we would fly around and there are so many crazy stories, and I was sharing just the naval flying stories. But there's others to be told. I'm sure everybody from the dentists to the carpenters to the penguin researchers, they all have crazy stories to tell that I think a lot of people would find really interesting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, so everybody look out for that. I don't know when it's going to become a reality, but you're working on it. So
yeah, I hope to
keep an eye
launch within the month.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dave. This has been awesome.
Well,
This has
thank
been
you.
a huge
Very
help.
fun to be
Absolutely.
here. I appreciate it.
Setting us straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And now, if I could just find my sleeping bag, we should be all set.
Tommy, you're hogging.
Sorry. I should have brought
I
two.
thought he was spooning.
See, here's one of those. See, this is the thing. We might need an adult to step in here.
Yeah, really. Does Pete count as an adult? Pete, get us out of here.
What do you guys think of, actually one thing I really love about this little moment is after Indy grabs the cross and he starts going towards the rope and he turns around and just has this mischievous kind of gleeful little grin, kind of that Indy half grin. And I think he kind of nailed it. Like, I think that was great.
Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
such a kid thing to do. You're like about to get away with it. You're just like,
Yeah, I'm being crafty.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good line. We talked about this. Do we believe this is Indiana Jones younger?
It'd be funny if we found out that it wasn't. Every audience who ever saw it is just assuming, based on like the snakes and the whip and the hat, like, oh my gosh, he grew up to be Indiana, but it's like just some dude,
It's just some dude.
some kid. It'd be great if like cut to like 3 houses down.
Yeah, the
on
sullen
the block,
kid. Yeah, sitting there like, I hate that guy.
Yeah, he's like making out with a 5-year-old Marion Ravenwood.
Oh boy,
Stop picturing it.
he's a little violent towards Baby Porkins, isn't he?
That makes me think he's indie.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
all the earmarks of India.
Yeah, Minor
Yeah.
Eaton. Yeah, Porkins is lucky he didn't get punched off the side of the thing.
Yeah.
And if we go back to Raiders, he's a little bit gruff with Satipo too.
Yeah.
That's who I was
Yeah.
just thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like Senor. Nobody has come out of there alive, and he's like, "Shut up!"
Yeah.
Yeah, he spins him
Face
around.
doesn't
And
come
Yeah.
out of here alive.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he kind of half-heartedly gets the spider, the tarantulas off of him. He's like, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind
He
of
does
like
the same thing with the snake.
Yeah.
The trouser snake.
yeah. You think that's the first time that Baby Porkins is at anything near there?
I think that's what he was terrified of. He's like,
Yeah.
I got feelings in my pants that I don't understand.
Maybe he didn't want the snake removed.
Yeah, maybe. No, Andy, don't.
I
30 more seconds.
I'm wondering. It's a little bit more of like there's another Christian theme there. We got the cross, we got a crotch, and we got a snake. Like we're right back in the Garden of Eden again.
Yep.
Oh, I like that we kind of cut to the he breaks he steps on that piece of wood and it snaps, and everybody looks up. And I guess this is kind of where for sure that these aren't junior college students working on field work, because Roscoe just starts going, he's got our thing, like he just calls it his thing.
Yeah.
Like
I love
he
that.
doesn't know what it is, he doesn't care what it is, he just knows it's going to make him rich.
Right.
Right.
Whereas
right.
Indy just makes something up to say what it is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I also love that when he's absconding with something, whether it be the Chacha Point idol or the Crucifix of Coronado, he always it up, like the exit.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he, he turns around. It's like, well, the sandbag is too,
Yeah.
too
Right,
light
right.
or heavy, and then he has to start running. And here, it's like he's gonna get away. It's gonna be a clean, break. He's gonna be fine. And then he steps on the the broken log or whatever, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's it. I don't even know if he ever does accomplish getting away or absconding with
Right.
treasure ever.
I think we can all, at least I know I can relate to going your entire life without ever learning that one lesson. Like no matter how many times,
Yeah.
you get this
Yeah.
like one kind of mistake you'll always make,
Yeah.
and you just never learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Speaking of things you learn, this thing that Halfbreed says always reminds me of you, Tom. He says, "Get him."
That's me all over.
That is. Boy, it's like you've lived in Tommy's house for 30 years.
Yeah, it's like you just found out that somebody made a comment on the Listeners Crusade. What? Get him!
Everybody is lost but me. Let's just go right there.
Yep.
Let's go right there. Everybody is lost but me.
Well, I'll just ask, where is everybody? Is everybody actually lost right now? Where'd everybody go when he gets out of the cave?
I've sort of assumed everybody was lost.
Well, I mean, you know what I don't get? It's been like 6 minutes.
It has been 6
It
minutes.
has been 6
Yeah.
minutes. And with like that guy with the mustache and the whistle. He has a mustache and a whistle. He must know what he's doing.
But see, it's just like as soon as he said, "Don't go in the caves," they all scattered in every possible direction at once. Like they're
Yeah.
immediately going into every cave. So I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was actually everybody's lost but him.
It's entirely possible that not all of them make it back alive.
Yeah.
Like some of them are probably gone forever.
Yeah.
And they'll be in the next movie.
Yeah, there'll be like a
It's
forest
a
all
forest
situation.
hall. Yeah.
I feel like that's what a neckerchief will do. You know what I mean? You just
You're so worried about getting your woggle right. Exactly right,
that you're lost.
Yeah.
You know what is interesting is we have a total Lassie moment with Baby Porkins when he gives him the directive, and Baby Porkins, he goes, "Run back, Mr. Havlick, the sheriff, the barn's on fire,
Yeah.
Quick, water.
And
It's just
Indy is
kinda
sort
like,
of lip syncing with him. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's like saying
Yeah.
his lines with him.
I think that might be part of his like OCD compulsion. Like he has to
Maybe.
get it perfect in the chronological thing that he said. You know,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know where the hell everybody is, but it is fascinating that Indy says everybody's lost but me. Like I said, that's his the Indiana Jones Ptolemaic worldview.
Yeah.
Which is
Right.
whatever it is that you do, it's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
there's-
quote Dr. Beverly Crusher from Star Trek The Next Generation. If there's nothing wrong with me, maybe there's something wrong with the universe. Thank you.
Does he remind you of Sala when he's stumbling down the hill?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's him going down the hill
Like outside of the map
from
room
the
in
top of the
Tannis.
map room.
Yeah.
yeah.
Both that scene and this one, I feel like, if I was in that situation, I would break both ankles.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking
There's
that
no
too.
way I wouldn't break my
like,
ankle.
I was really surprised he didn't use a stunt actor there. But that's really River Phoenix.
That's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love for Gerry, I love the exuberant rock mischief music here.
I actually have like this minute. We get a lot of this sort of Temple of Doom style, zany, harebrained, madcap cave pirate rumpus,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit concerned because I think of the early Temple of Doom with the diamond anecdote. You know what I mean? It's kind of like just I don't know, where it's like, are they gonna take this movie seriously, or is it gonna be like, him kind of running down the like that sort of thing? Where'd everybody go?
Right.
Fortunately, there's nothing else like that at all in this movie.
No, yeah, and certainly not in the next 5 minutes. Yeah, we're safe. It's weird though, because I was having the same reaction to the music, and definitely in upcoming minutes, I'm like kind of, oh boy, there's nothing like this in Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1980. But then you think, well, there's kind of like plucky kind of like in the in Cairo when he's chasing down Marion in the basket and everything. But that feels a lot different. I don't know. Is it? And
It's got a little bit though, like when she bonks the guy with the frying pan.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, I'm
It's
saying
got-
there's
yeah.
a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
But
It's a very different thing, and again, much like in music, it all depends. What you can get away with all depends on what else is going around in the song.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it depends. You hear mistakes in famous songs all the time, like Motown songs speed up or slow down, but it's like the vocals are so amazing that you just it almost makes it a little better. You go, hey, it's not rushing, it's adding energy. And
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, because Raiders, they did establish it pretty seriously.
yeah.
I mean, I guess you could argue that some of the like Jacques start the engine and they don't, the Jovitos don't catch them. It gets a little, as we said, like I think, what was it, the Pompous Mischief?
yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason it gets more of a pass than I think it. If you still have Temple of Doom sort of in your mouth, you need a little bit more serious. A little
Right.
bit.
I mean, it's
a little
when
bit.
Indy's running for Jock and you get in the Pompous Mischief, like 30 seconds earlier, a guy got run through with a wall of spikes, like through his head and his body and stuff.
Exactly.
And it's not like, yeah, people are getting killed. It's not like things have to be awful and
No.
crazy, but like, there's a balance, and like
Yeah.
right here, we're kind of right off the bat, kind of light and fluffy.
And then you go straight from that to a more serious moment where he's talking to Marcus in the classroom. Like you
Yeah,
kind
I've
of
got
frame
nothing-
it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with like moments of levity
Yeah.
and some light humor and stuff, but you start to get a little panicky when it's when you feel like you're watching a completely different movie all of a sudden.
Well, I'm just, I'm wondering, is the movie going to be like that? It's like we're on the Indiana Jones River, and we just,
Right.
we start off at Raiders. We've passed through the Temple of Doom cataracts, the rapids there, and then now we're like, okay, is it going to be? Now that we're through Temple of Doom, are we going to be carrying that with us along that sort of vibe through this movie as well?
Yeah.
And Saul is about to show up wearing like one of those floaty things like around his waist.
Yeah,
With a big
we'll
duck
see.
on the
We'll
front.
see.
Yeah.
I ain't hating. I'm just wondering. Is it going to be madcap zany?
Not hating, just wondering. The Indiana Jones Minute.
I still think the River Phoenix delivers this line beautifully, that everybody's lost but me. Like
Yeah.
I feel like
yeah.
he really sells a scene that could, I think, if anybody else had been playing him, would have been absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm picturing an alternate universe. Like we had 3 Star Wars prequels where everyone basically agrees universally that Ewan McGregor was awesome in that and all those as Obi-Wan Kenobi. If there had been a universe where we had like sort of a prequel series of Indiana Jones movies starring River Phoenix, would we have been totally fine with that and it would have totally worked and we would have loved it?
No.
I don't know. Just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Not hating, just wondering.
And Spielberg was really against this. Like he had just come off of making Empire of the Sun, and it got because of the reviews afterwards. He said he was never ever going to make a movie with kids in it again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like that E.T. bomb.
Yeah, it didn't last very long, but
Yeah.
but yeah, George Lucas talked him into it. This is what we get.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Really, that's actually fascinating. This says like kind of like the more goofball Steven Spielberg all over it.
it does
to me.
feel like it.
Or
Yeah,
maybe that's because from this movie or something. I don't
maybe
know.
he's like,
this
hey,
movie
that
helped.
really worked. Let's
Yeah.
stick with this. Let's put him with dinosaurs.
How about kids with dinosaurs? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That could work. Well, do we have anything else for minute 5? What
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
Wait
Oh.
a second. Something's coming
What?
in over the
Hey.
wires here.
are you talking about? Has the wire even been invented? Okay.
Oh, look. This one looks like it might be 2-part.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
It's
okay.
expensive.
yeah. Looks like somebody got a raise.
Really?
This just in from Professor Christy Porter. So young Indy learns that people who steal artifacts wear leather jackets and fedoras.
I learned it from you, Dad.
That's the first. Yeah, we did touch on that a little bit earlier. So
Yes.
yeah, that's
This
what
is
he
the,
learns.
this is one of the
Yeah.
one of the problems with the telegraph thing and the yes, it's fast communication, but it's hard for her to know what we've already covered.
Well,
'cause
we've already.
she's-
Well,
she's
there is a
weeks
second
away.
question here.
Oh, okay.
There's
Okay.
a second question. Boop, boop,
Boop-a-doop.
boop. Do you guys dress like your fathers?
God, that's mean.
And she was thinking of you, Tommy.
Oh, that cut right to the core.
Well, it's a great question, though, right?
is,
I
yeah,
mean, we
it
have
is.
to. Yeah. What we look at. Yeah. Maybe we'll see what Indiana Jones' father dresses like, and now we have this grave robber. And
Yeah.
how he's dressing, and then we have to wonder. So, what does Indiana Jones dress like? And it's interesting, right? We do see him in professorial attire, and we also see him dressed in grave robber
Yeah.
wear.
Right.
So, seriously, what do you guys dress like your fathers?
My shirt is tucked in as we speak
You're an
into my khaki pants with a belt and a thing.
Tito's
Yeah.
with no socks.
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tommy, that's kind of that's a pretty strong yes for you, Tommy.
It is, and
Yeah.
I'm groaning about it, but it's also it's working for me. It worked for him. Screw
Well,
everybody.
I mean, your dad doesn't miss an oil change.
No, he doesn't.
No, and
No,
neither do
you know what? I'm
Neither do
starting to
you.
not miss oil changes. It's not just the
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do
Pete?
worse.
No, I made a conscious choice many years ago not to dress like my father.
You did? How's that? How's that working?
I've stuck with it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know
all
if it
right.
works, but it's what happened.
Well, it's interesting. We'll see what Indy does here. You
Yeah.
know, like that
Yeah.
belongs in a museum. Is he as you said? Is he just rebellious and rambunctious and not going to
Yeah.
do what anybody tells him?
I'm going to say you don't dress as your dad, Jer.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you, Tommy.
I was gonna say that too.
I
I mean,
love
you used to, I guess, with I don't know, like tennis
True.
outfits and stuff.
No, I did. I did used to dress like my father. And if you find me in the occasional preppy Saturday,
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
do. Yep.
Yep.
Does the Professor Christy Porter dress like her mother?
Wow, that's a good question.
Well, that's a very good
Maybe?
question. Yeah. Let's
Kind of.
stick it back
Yeah.
to her. Turn it around. Just start
Yeah.
jabbing.
Get on the machine.
How do you like it, Professor Christy Porter? I'm gonna say half. My mother dresses better than Professor Christy Porter.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, Professor Christy Porter does that whole New England LL Bean thing, which is fine. It's fine. It's kind of like, she dresses like like a dog in
Like
November.
me and my dad.
Yeah, like you and your dad. Yeah, she dresses
The
like
New England
like
LL Bean thing.
Yeah, like a dog in November in front of the fireplace, sitting in front of a plaid dog basket.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a dog bed. She dresses like that. Probably like a sweater that's hunter green.
Doesn't sound so bad.
Maybe a turtleneck.
Nah.
Would match my mom's kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Now that we've established that we're all doomed to follow in our father's footsteps, Gerry, where can people find us online if they want to find out more and do more and interact with us?
Well, by all means, they should come to our Facebook page, the Indiana Jones Listeners Crusade, where we discuss all sorts of neckerchiefs and woggles and whether you dress well.
We do now.
I guess so.
Whether or not you dress like your father or your mother, all that sort of stuff. We also can be found at Pete Help Me.
If you want to support the show and you're happy that our show's back and you want to get maybe some other stuff, come check out indianajonesminute.com/Patreon or patreon.com/indianajonesminute. And we do a weekend show where we've been talking about some other movies like Jaws and Close Encounters and who knows what else will be coming up.
God, you know what I love about that? I grabbed you by the neckerchief woggle, Pete. I said, and you went, Patreon, Twitter.
He was already earned his plug badge.
Yeah,
That's why.
Gerry was mouthing it along with me, though, as I said it.
Oh, and people should also, of course, go to iTunes, and if you're enjoying the show, subscribe to us and leave us a lovely review on there. 5 stars if you feel like it, and of course you do because you enjoy this show. People are leaving us nice reviews. People like Rich Frome. That's a one-word thing. That's a screen name. He says, inspiring. I stumbled upon your podcast randomly while searching Indiana Jones. I wanted something similar to Rebel Forces Radio for the Indiana Jones saga. Indiana Jones Minute came up as a suggestion. I'm currently only up to minute 63, no spoilers, but you've got me hooked. The best part is that by the time I catch up to Indy 5, will be out, and my son will be old enough for me to start at the beginning. I can't wait to share the films of my youth with him and then be able to go back and share your podcast. That's nice.
That's awesome.
That's
You
damn
created
nice.
a brilliant supplemental material to the franchise. Thank you. Hashtag Indy 5 will be better. Hashtag fingers crossed.
You know what? And
beautiful.
I hope his
Yeah.
son dresses like him.
Exactly. Because he probably dresses like Indiana Jones.
And you know, if you'd like to give us a review, just go to the iTunes and copy and paste that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the whole thing.
I'm sure there are no bots that scan for that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
lazy ass.
Yeah.
That's fine. It belongs in a museum.
Exactly. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And please come back next week where we will start in on minute 6 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Think with your hands, not with your mouth.
It's a crucifix, not a cross!
Neckerchief!
Woggle.